Everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Women's Sports Matter podcast. I'm your host, Gianna Castro, and today I'm recording in front of a live audience. Hi guys. They're on mute because they're a bunch of losers and they can't contain themselves, and that's why they're muted. I'm not going to show you because, privacy concerns, and I would get sued by one of my friends who's apparently moving to Canada. Free healthcare and whatnot. You're welcome, Gerald. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about a video game that I play. Yes. It is FIFA. I love playing FIFA so much, only because soccer is the best sport in the world, or football, whatever the hell you want to call it these days. I don't really care. But there's something wrong with the game. There's only women's international teams. There is no club teams on there. And that's what I want to talk about today. So, before we get into that, you know what we do. We play the flippin' ad read. So, Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast, please enjoy this beautiful, glorious ad read. And then we'll get right into it. So, enjoy if you want to, or you can just skip ahead like a loser would. See you in a bit. Wasn't that just absolutely beautiful? I know, such an amazing ad read. But today, we're going to be talking about FIFA, the game run by EA Sports. But before we begin, I want to show off my t-shirt because I'm such a cool soccer fan. I want to be like Megan Rapinoe when I grow up. That's all I wanted to show off because I have so many amazing soccer shirts. I just wanted to share. I'm being laughed at by my live audience. That's rude. Anyway, we're talking about FIFA. We're talking about EA Sports. It's in the game. That's their slogan. But never mind that. The real issue here is the fact that teams like Arsenal and Chelsea, two of the most successful women's soccer teams in Europe, are not even on FIFA at all. Also with the NWSL and, their amazing teams aren't even on there. But the women's national teams are, which is a step up, but they did that like 4 years ago. If you're going to add teams from Sweden and the Netherlands, Croatia, Greece, like the smaller teams, why aren't you adding the women's teams? Recently, Portland Thorns have, I think, 5th most attendance for a soccer game, both men's and women's. At least they're putting Providence Park in the game in FIFA 21. So good for them, I guess. And Portland Timbers. But the thing that bothers me the most is that I can't play as my favorite women's soccer team, the Chicago Red Stars, on my favorite video game. I can play as the Chicago Sky on NBA 2K, but I haven't been playing 2K in a while because why bother trying to play that game when all they really care about is the men's teams and not even the women's teams? It doesn't make any sense. When I did my interview for a school project with former SB Nation writer Matt Allentuck, we were talking a lot about NBA 2K and how we really hate the video game because, they did put the women's teams in there. Good for them, but it just didn't really sit well. You can only do one season on the game in my team mode or my GM when you can do 100 seasons with the Boston Celtics, for example, in my GM mode. It's really, really bad, and Ronnie 2K is obviously going to fix it. He's such a great guy. building the game up through the past years. But FIFA, I don't know what they're doing. It's really, really bad, and I don't know what to say. When they put Alex Morgan on the cover with Leo Messi, I thought that was really cool, but again, that was like 4 years ago, and no one really cares about that anymore. The only thing people care about is, online modes and stuff like that, while people like me who are waiting for their favorite team to be added to the game are stuck playing with their favorite men's team or just, I don't even know anymore. Probably just going with the online features, even though those are also really bad. A lot of people are complaining about that, and honestly, I don't blame them. I personally don't use online modes because I am cheap, and I don't want to buy an Xbox Live membership. Because yes, I don't waste money. And that's why you see watermarks on my videos, because I don't buy editing services. Because I'm cheap. Anyway. I don't really care right now. It's not totally bothering me that there aren't women's teams on FIFA, but it would be really nice to have them. Will they be in FIFA 21? Absolutely not. There's no way. They're barely going to fix career mode, which is my favorite mode personally, and they're just going to keep adding to Volta Football, which is also a mode that I like to use since you really don't have to be online for that. I wouldn't say I'm the best at FIFA, but I think I'm pretty damn good. And how do I show that off? I'm not going to. All I can say is that I beat everyone that I play, and anyone is welcome to challenge me. Now, am I bragging? Yes. Do I care? No. The thing that matters here is that I'm good at FIFA, and I'm just going to keep saying that to fill up some time. Because I'm a podcast genius. Anyway, I love playing as Chelsea, the men's team, of course, and playing as Christian Pulisic, or Jorginho, or Oliver Giroud. Great footballers. And yes, I said footballers, not soccer players. I'm trying to get used to saying what everyone else in the world says, because it makes sense why it's called football. Americans are stupid. I'm sorry. It's true. Americans are dumb. You hear that? No reaction from the audience. Tough crowd. I'm never doing an audience-filled podcast recording ever again. Not even for my sister, because she's annoying. Anyway, I love playing as Borussia Dortmund, also, two of my favorite soccer teams. I love playing as a manager in career mode and building up my team to win some Champions Leagues or the Premier League, stuff like that. I really enjoy that mode. The best thing that they did to the game recently is put women's managers on. I've used that mode. I've made a person that kind of looks like me, but not really. Because obviously you can't match this gorgeous face on a game. But, oh well. I think they have face scanning, but I think it only works for the dudes. But that's probably just a myth, and I don't do enough research. Because I never do research before these things, and I end up looking up stuff anyway. Because I don't plan ahead. Anyway. I really wish that I could play as Sam Kerr on Chelsea instead of the Australia women's national team. I wish I could play as Megan Rapinoe on OL Reign instead of the U.S. women's national team. So many amazing examples for people that are on the women's national teams, but are also on club teams that are doing so well. Lucy Bronze plays for OL. The team in France, not the team in the U.S. The ownership group decided to put naming rights on the Seattle Reign, which is now the OL Reign, for anyone that doesn't know. My concern is that people will think, especially for those that aren't educated, if they don't put these women's teams onto the game, that they'll think, oh, the women's soccer players, they don't play like the men do. Like, they don't have a team that they're on. They're just on a national team. And I thought that way for a very, very long time. I used to think, oh, it's just a national team. Like, they don't do anything else. They probably have a regular job or something. I was quite mistaken. The first NWSL game I watched was maybe a few years ago, but the most recent one that I remember is when the Chicago Red Stars played in their first game back since the World Cup, and that's the game that I watched in its entirety, and I recognized so many stars from that game. I was like, wait a minute, all these players are on the hometown team, and I had no idea. It was just such an amazing experience to realize that the people you were watching play for their country, plays for your city. And I think FIFA needs to somehow bring these women into the game. They're cowards. They're adding teams from countries in the middle of nowhere, and they're not even putting that full division in there. They're just adding these teams. And it's put in the rest of the world category. Okay, cowards. FIFA, please add women's teams in the near future. It's really upsetting for me. When NBA Live added the WNBA to their game, they were the first sports game to add the women's counterpart, and that was in 2018, I believe, or 2019. I honestly don't remember, but my uncle bought me that game, and I got to play as my favorite WNBA players. It was such an exciting thing to see the people that you watch on TV and you can play as them in an actual game on the Xbox or on the PlayStation or on your PC. It's as a person that plays video games and as a person that watches a lot of different sports, whether it's men's or women's or both, the people that I look up to, I want to be able to play as them on a game because I think that's the coolest thing ever. It's like getting a jersey of your favorite player. It's so cool. Building a team around your favorite player, trading that player to a better team so they can succeed. It's something that you want to do. But you can't do that if game developers don't put your team in the game. It's really sad. And I know it sounds like I'm complaining, but I'm not the only one. Obviously, there's a lot of things that need to change within FIFA because it's a really bad game, but it's a really good game. The servers are quite shit. I'm gonna have to be honest with you. There's times where I can't play the game because the servers are down, and all I wanted to do was go on to the career mode. Even that is hard to get to, and sometimes I'm stuck playing a Champions League group stage game with Chelsea and PSG because the game updates and it takes too long, and there's just so many problems. Ultimate Team, I know they're just gonna update again because that's their selling point. That's their most popular use, along with the online mode. But again, no sign of women. But hey, we're gonna add women's managers for you because we hear you and we love equality. But do you really, FIFA? Come on. I'm really frustrated. And it doesn't matter right now. But 5 years from now, if there's no teams added, I may have to boycott the game. And I sound really mad. And I sound like, again, I'm complaining. I am. Also, these thoughts are my own. And also, I like complaining about things. Big brain. I like women's sports a lot, clearly. Name of the podcast, if you didn't know. And it frustrates me when I just can't do anything. I feel like I can't do anything. I go on the game, I'm bored. If I had, the Chelsea women's team, and I could play against the Arsenal women's team, magic. Both two amazing teams with so much depth in their rosters. So good. Also, I want to go back to another point that I made earlier when you're finding out that players are also on teams. I had no idea that England had their own group, league. I'm at a loss for words because I'm so upset. They have their own league. I think it's the FA League. It's not the same thing as the Premier League. They named it differently. But I don't think they have all these different EFL leagues like the men do, because it's a smaller group of teams. I also didn't know Germany had a league or Australia had a league. It was all coming together at one point. I was finally being educated at the end of the World Cup. If I didn't end up watching the World Cup, I don't think I would have been as educated as I am right now. A lot of the stuff that I've learned in the span of time since then. So the Women's World Cup was last June, July. And now, fast forward, it's been a year later. I've learned a lot in 1 year. I'm following all these different teams, seeing who's playing in the Champions League for the women, which is also a really cool thing. I'm seeing loans taking place right now because of the NWSL Challenge Cup, which is something I talk about a lot on this podcast. And honestly, I haven't talked about basketball in a hot minute. And an episode about that is coming up as soon as stuff happens in Florida. Some pretty exciting stuff happening in Florida right now. Today was media day for the Chicago Sky, but that's another topic for another day. Yeah. What was I saying? Soccer. Yeah. And a lot of players are leaving the NWSL right now because the league is too hard for them. This is the most challenging league. And this is further proof that the NWSL should at least be on the game as long as other top teams. You don't necessarily have to put them in their different leagues separated. Maybe you can just put a cluster of women's teams together. Maybe all the NWSL, since that's 9 teams. And then some teams from France, Germany, Australia, England. Cluster them together like the rest of the world that FIFA does for the men's teams. Something to think about, EA Sports. I know most of your concentration right now is on Madden, because that probably sells more than FIFA, but honestly, if we're talking about American football, that stuff is gross. Also, concussions. Also, why would you rate Rob Gronkowski a 95 when he hasn't played in a year? And that's on Tom Brady bribing EA Sports. But again, another topic for another day, and I hate football, so I will not be talking about that topic. I'm just really good at this. Yes. My friends are bored. Really bored. In fact, not a peep out of them this whole time, and that's because they're on mute because I don't trust them. And now the interaction happens. I'm a really good host, clearly. Is there anything else that I want to say about this topic? Probably not. I think I've said enough for almost 20 minutes. The bottom line is, if FIFA doesn't get their shit together, I will not be purchasing their game anymore. And by I will not be purchasing, I meant my mother will not be purchasing because, again, I am broke and I don't buy these games. I get them for Christmas. For cheap. Because that's how we roll here. My family is so smart. Alright, and we also will not be getting 2K until they revamp the W on their game. Hopefully that is something that will happen in the near future. If not, I will not be purchasing their game. And if I see kitchen comments, I'm going to lose my mind because that really just means y'all don't know how to make a sandwich yourselves, and that's embarrassing. I made an episode kind of about that a while ago. And my friend Gerald, name dropped again, didn't know what it meant. So if you don't know what it means, you're living under a rock. Don't give me that look. You don't know what it meant. Kitchen comments. You literally asked me what they meant. I have text to prove it. Alright. You know what? I've had enough of today's episode. I think I'm done here. If you want to see another video like this, oh my god, hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. It's the Women's Sports Matter Podcast YouTube channel. Yes, I'm here live on your screen. Well, not live. Pre-recorded on your screen. If you want to subscribe, you absolutely can. Please do. It helps me out a lot. We are 5 subscribers strong, and I know I have a lot of listeners on actual podcast apps, but if you are listening on here and you love this content so much that you're like, gee, I want to subscribe so badly. I'm like, yeah, use your big brain and subscribe. If you want to subscribe to my podcast, it is currently on so many different apps. Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Overcast, Radio Public, and more. So many links down below to get you to your preferred podcast app. All I want to say is shout out to women's soccer players out there. Y'all are doing great. Wish you were on a video game to show how incredibly talented you are. I also have a Patreon. If you want to support me, I think starting very soon I will be putting up extra episodes. I have no idea what that means yet, but I'm going to do it at one point. You can support me for as little as $4.99 a month. Isn't that superb? And if you think that price is a little too high for you right now, you can support me directly through Anchor for 99 cents a month. With this money, I will be buying a microphone because I so desperately need one. Because apparently my podcasts sound really bad. Gerald. Guilty face, of course. What else do I want to say? If you want to send me a voice message to tell me how great of a podcast host I truly am, you can do that through my podcast website, which is linked down below. It's one of the very first links. I think that's all I'm going to promote for now. Also, I'm going to put a Black Lives Matter card down there because, again, the cops that killed Breonna Taylor are still living free. Sign some petitions, folks. This is truly embarrassing. I fixed it. Oh my god. Since I have a piece of shit laptop, it stopped recording. So, let me finish what I was saying. It's disgusting that the cops that killed Breonna Taylor in her own household, she did absolutely nothing wrong, and was alive for 6 minutes afterwards. Something's up, folks. Again, listed down below is the Black Lives Matter card that has all the resources for you to help out. And as always, as I say at the end of my podcast, at least for right now, wash your hands, wear a mask, socially distance when you can. Alright, stop the spread. If we all wear a mask for like 2 months, we can get rid of COVID, kind of, in America. So if y'all want to go back to live concerts and shit, listen to the CDC. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I am Giancarlo Castro, the host of the Women's Sports Matter podcast. Please subscribe, let me know how I'm doing, and thank you so much for listening. Again, I'm your host, Giancarlo Castro. That's all, folks.